Welcome to the Nest Podcast, your home for nerd entertainment and sports talk, where your hosts, Brandon and Zach, hash out what's happening in video games and sports every week. Enjoy the show!
Hey guys, what's up, and welcome back to another episode of the Nest Podcast. This is episode number 55, the Junior Sayout episode presented by Sportzilla. I'm your host, Brandon. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, Zach. And this week we have a couple other voices joining us. Longtime listeners will remember Justin from Into the Woods podcast. He's been on several times throughout football season last year, and he's going to be back with us again this year for football season. So, Justin, welcome back, man.
Thank you, man. Glad to be back.
Cool. Yeah, we'll get into some football and stuff like that here on this episode with him on for sure. And also joining us this week, some of our other listeners that tune in for some of our other topics and categories that we cover might know Adam from the Bearded Ballesta. He's joining us on here, and he's going to share some knowledge on sports as well. So any of you listeners out there from Sportzilla that haven't tuned into our nerdy conversations about Game of Thrones and such, you should definitely check out the Bearded Ballesta podcast, because he drops some good sports knowledge too. Adam, what's up, dude?
What's up, gentlemen? Thanks for having me on.
Oh, yeah, man, of course. Welcome to your first official Nest podcast episode. You've always been on the bonus tracks.
Yeah, I know my fair share of sports, too. So, I'm excited to get to talk football and everything else in the wild world of sports with you guys.
Hell yeah. Let's get right into it then, guys. A lot's been going on in the NFL around the league. But for me specifically, I've just been seeing Tom Brady stack up wide receivers. Have you guys caught any of the news coming out of New England?
Josh
Gordon's back. Demaryius Thomas signed with the Pats. Edelman's back. Fuck, you guys are all screwed.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man. We had Demaryius Thomas for a little bit down in Houston. He didn't produce anything. Josh Gordon's gonna, stay on that pipe. So I don't think he's gonna be as productive either. But
yeah. That's exactly what I was going to say.
There's a greater chance of Josh Gordon not completing the season at all than there is of him catching more than 5 touchdowns. No. 5 passes.
I don't know.
I'll take that bet.
Okay.
I think he's going to play out the whole season. I think he's good to go.
I'll take the bet, and I guarantee he won't play the whole season.
Oh, he's gonna play it, and he's gonna march all the way to a Super Bowl.
I give him week 3.
Oh, okay. Yeah, coming from the guy who drafted Le'Veon Bell last year in fantasy football. So,
yeah. And I drafted Antonio Brown in my first league this year.
Yeah, you really know how to pick them.
Man, I will say though that we're talking more about the receivers, and I think the biggest one, that they've acquired is Philip or Dorsett, which is he's had some flashes, but we're forgetting that it doesn't really matter who he's throwing to, because it's Tom Brady. I mean, we've seen time again and again where he's taken these. It almost, when they march up on the field and line up, it looks like a private Catholic school of receivers, and they get out there and they ball out like anybody else can. It's so he's going to take these guys and probably do amazing numbers with them because it's Tom Brady.
Yep.
You did hit a nail on the head. Tom Brady does make players a lot better. So I was going to say the same exact thing when you mentioned that Thomas didn't do shit in Houston. It's because you didn't have anybody throwing him the goddamn ball. You've always had bullshit quarterbacks, bullshit offensive lines. The Texans are a terrible team. I know that's kind of your hometown team, but it's not your
that's
love.
Not my. Yeah, no,
I got a passion team. So
yeah, I'm actually not really happy with him again, because although a lot of stuff came out of training camp and a lot of people were saying negative things, they released Deontay Foreman, former Texas Longhorn running back, who I think he's a great player. He's going to be a great pickup for whoever gets him, but unfortunately Houston didn't really want to give him another chance.
Well, I think they had cut him whenever they took Duke Johnson.
Yeah.
I think I honestly think that everybody's talking about how good of a move that was for Nick Chubb, but I honestly think that's a good with Deshaun Watson.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a great move for Duke. I have Duke Johnson being a big sleeper this year.
Now, is this because you picked him up in a fantasy league, or is that because you actually feel like he's going to have a breakout season?
They gave a 3rd round pick for him, which is a pretty big. I mean, that's a big deal especially for a backup running back, basically. So they've got a plan to throw him in the mix. You're not going to give away a number 3, possibly a number 2. I don't know what the conditions are. You're not going to give away that high of a pick for a guy that you're going to stash on the bench. They've got something in the works that they're going to use him for, and I feel like he's going to be utilized.
I just worry that the Texans line isn't good enough to support a strong run game, and with Watson and Duke in the backfield, they're going to try to run it, and it's going to get stuffed over and over again, especially in that division where the Jags defense is going to be just as good as they were 2 years ago.
I see Duke being not as good, not even close as good as Kamara, but he'll play a Kamara type role. He won't necessarily be running the ball as much as he'll be catching the ball out of the backfield.
And he's actually always been that player. The pitfall for him is he's been a Cleveland Brown. And it's not until recently that they've been, throwing the rock to everybody. But he was always that kind of player where, 1 week he has 3 fantasy points. The next week he's got 12. Then he's got 6. And then he gets 18. And so we might see a little more consistent numbers from him. But like Brandon says, that offensive line in Houston is atrocious. And I live here and I see it firsthand. It's not our best product, but hopefully a lot of our athletic players and offense can get us out of a bind.
My rooting interest in the division is the Jags because I live in Jacksonville, Florida. So I see the Texans, and we kind of talk about the Texans and stuff with my friends at work who are big Jags fans. So we analyze and do a little bit of studying on the AFC South. Scrubs.
Jags.
The Colts are going to be terrible this year. Everybody thinks they're going to be good. Andrew Luck, his leg is like already fucked up in 3 spots.
Yep. Yeah, and even before he got hurt, I was just super, super. What the fuck is everyone talking about? Like, Andrew Luck has had how many years now to become this it quarterback that he was supposed to be? And people say that he didn't have an O-line and he didn't have this and he didn't have that, but like, I think it's him. Like, he always gets hurt, and if he's not hurt, he's mediocre at best.
I was actually a little high on them, and then I think one of my podcasts I said he was going to be, or the Colts would win the AFC South. I think it was 1 or 2 days later that it's announced that he's injured. He may not play week 1 or whatever, and so you can throw them back in the mix of they're probably not going to perform to their potential again, which is unfortunate because you want to see players like that do well, especially with how humble he is, but it's just not going to happen again.
I do agree with Luck being a humble guy and a good guy or whatever, but fuck the Indianapolis Colts.
Oh, I don't like the Colts.
The way that they treated Peyton Manning on his way out, they deserve every bit of karma, bad luck going forward.
Yeah, you got a fair point. Yeah. Well, I mean, I've said the same thing over and over about the Houston Texans and why I'm not as high on them, because two of our greatest players in franchise history, Andre Johnson and Arian Foster, were essentially kicked to the curb for all the work they did. And, of course, he brought back Johnson right before his retirement, and, he got to retire as a Texan, but it didn't have the same meaning as when he played those 10-plus years with us.
Right. I mean, he built his career in Houston, so I get that. Arian Foster, Tennessee boy.
Oh, yeah. He's a beast back in the day, man.
He's also
a juggernaut.
Albuquerque, so he has ties to my home state too.
Oh, that's funny. Arian Foster kind of connected to all 4 of us in a way. That's wild.
And you know who else is a Tennessee Volunteer? I mean, of course, it was a second option, but Alvin Kamara.
Yeah,
Yep.
Kamara got screwed. But it's sad that we had Dobbs, Kamara. We have all these people, Preston Williams, all these people that are now producing in the NFL. The fact that Butch Jones couldn't coach them up is absolutely, being a Vols fan, that is fucking heartbreaking. just to know that we had Kamara we had that talent and totally wasted. It's sad. That's one of the worst parts about watching Kamara tear up the NFL is I know that we had him on our team and we didn't see half of that.
And he was utilized as a second stringer most of the time.
Yeah, and he wasn't worked into the pass game. He was running the ball of the backfield. It just Butch. I hate Butch Jones. I think he's probably one of the worst coaches to ever do it. Period.
What was it? Jalen Hurd was the guy ahead of him on the depth chart, and then he just bounced. He's like, I'm
a wide receiver. He's a wide receiver now.
Yeah, what an idiot.
Is this Jalen Hurd, the one that was at Baylor?
Yeah.
Yep.
He was like 6'5", running the ball.
Yeah, he's a punk. I don't like that guy. I'm a Longhorn fan, so.
I don't like his daddy either. It reminds me of like a LeVar Ball, but just not as flashy. Like his dad was writing all these shit-talking letters, talking about how Tennessee did this and Tennessee did that, and basically bashing Tennessee when he left. And I was happy to see him go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't need that kind of negativity. I mean, with UT, we had Brew McCoy. I don't know if you guys heard of him. He was, top 5, prospect out of high school, and Cliff Kingsbury leaves USC, goes to the NFL. So Brew decides to leave, come to Texas, and that's a huge, huge pickup for us. We already have a great underclass, that's already there. He plays all his spring ball, and then decides that he's homesick and goes back to Los Angeles and reinstates his, whatever with USC. And it's one of those things where I don't really need a player like that on my team if they're going to be wishy-washy. But yeah, it's kind of the shit we've had to deal with over here.
It's guys like that turn into guys like Antonio Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck him.
Yeah, I want my Tennessee guy to like fucking die for the school, like singing Rocky Top in the shower and shit. Like, love that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I saw Tennessee got a transfer quarterback today.
Just add, dude. Pruitt has done, based on what he had from Butch Jones, Pruitt has put together 2 top 5 recruiting classes, and he just keeps piling them in, dude. Like every time I read Facebook, there's another 5-star or another 4-star, and there's Pruitt is just absolutely bringing them in. If we can win 8 games this year, I have a feeling it won't be but a few more years where we're talked about as one of the top schools in the nation again. I think we're that close.
And I don't think 8 games is that far out of the question. I think by the time they come to Florida, they should be 3-0 coming to Florida. Florida might be beatable.
I think so. Honest to God, I know that I always want to see Florida lose. Being a Tennessee fan, we hate Florida. But I want them to beat Miami just because I want to be the team that gives them that first L in Gainesville.
Yeah, especially since it's down in the swamp. It's always better to win on their turf because it's like rubbing their nose in it.
You going?
I don't know, man. Tickets are through the roof for those games.
It's always going to be, man. You just got to jump on it.
Well, we're already going to a baseball game in September in Tampa, and then we're coming up your way in December. So we've got a lot of trips coming up, and it's like, hey, man, you got to pick your poison on these things.
Good deal. In December, you got to hit me up, man. We'll go out and have a beer.
Sure. Yeah, man, for sure.
Since we're on the subject, do you guys have any, I guess, way too early predictions for college football top 4?
Yeah, you guys talked about that on your last episode a little bit, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not as big of a college football fan as I am an NFL fan. I watch the Vols when they play, but I don't really follow it and study it. But just my not really full on knowing bullshit guess, I would say in no particular order: Georgia, Clemson, Ohio State, and Oklahoma.
You left Bama out?
Yeah, that's not.
Yeah, I think Georgia beats Bama in the SEC title game.
I also agree. My prediction, I think Bama, this is the one year where Bama's going to get left out. At some point, the cake's going to fall. I think it's Clemson's first in, I don't think they're going to get beat by anybody because their whole conference is honestly kind of shit. They don't really have a lot of people to play against.
Oh yeah. See.
Second, I have Georgia. I think Georgia's going to be that one team to beat Alabama. 3, I have Michigan. I think this is the year that Michigan finally tops Ohio State and that they finally get in. It's been a long time coming. And then 4th, although I'm a Longhorn, so I would like to see Jalen Hurts get his revenge. Let's say Alabama made it in the top 4. I would love to see him, national title game, Alabama, OU, Jalen Hurts taking on his former school. But I think Texas is going to make that top 4. I really think that we're going to run the Big 12. I think we might lose a game, but I think we might edge out the top 4. I'm also, being very optimistic and a little biased, but
what is their preseason rank?
10th.
We're 10.
Okay.
September 7th. September 7th, we're taking on LSU in Austin.
I read an article the other day that there's never been a BCS title winner that was started the season outside of the top 10. So you just barely make that cutoff on that one. But
you got what's his name school that supposedly were the co-champions. Remember that?
Yeah. University of Central Florida.
Yeah.
The Golden Knights.
Didn't
That's
play
garbage. Exactly.
So think, Adam, you really think that Texas can beat out Oklahoma this year?
Absolutely. I think Jalen Hurts a little overrated. I mean, we all saw he can't really play ball. OU's defense is not really that great. It's going to be a high-scoring game more than likely. In Texas, man, we have a lot of great young talent. And I mean, we lost Brew McCoy, but we do have a guy out of Cuero, Texas. He set a state high school record for most rushing yards. He plays receiver, but they actually put him running back. He had 6 touchdowns and over 350 all-purpose yards in that game. What's his name? Jordan something, but we actually moved him to running back. So we're looking at maybe him getting a lot of touches. And then we have this other guy, Jake Smith, who's from Notre Dame Prep in Arizona. He's going to be like Jordan Shipley on steroids. He was actually the Gatorade Player of the Year last year in all of high school in the United States. And, he's coming to Texas. So we'll see what happens, man. We got a lot of talent, and a lot of people love to hate us. So, of course, we're not really getting any respect or love. We got, Terry Bradshaw. We're playing Louisiana Tech next weekend, and he's been, very vocal about saying Sam Ehlinger is not a great quarterback. So I think we're gonna blow him out by at least 35. Like, just watch.
I feel like people haven't talked about Texas college football since Colt McCoy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I really haven't heard much about him or on a national scene since Vince Young.
Yeah.
Yeah. Colt McCoy was up there. People talked about him. I definitely remember him talking about him. But yeah, obviously,
if Colt McCoy doesn't get hurt in that first opening drive against Bama, I think Texas beats Bama in that first championship, because we almost had our backup quarterback who was a true freshman. He had his high school prom 6 months before that championship game, have to come in the second series of the game against Alabama, not really playing anything. And, although it was a lot of, passes towards the end of the game, we only lost by, a couple of touchdowns with a quarterback that had literally no experience. So
it's true. Y'all are forgetting one team that I have a feeling. First of all, I think Oklahoma is my upset special. Do I think it's going to happen? Probably not. But they play Houston week 1, and Houston can put up some numbers, and they got a beast of a quarterback. And nobody's even looking at that game, even because Oklahoma's 4. But I have a weird feeling that Houston has a chance to upset Oklahoma. And I always bash this team every year because they don't really have a set schedule per se. But Notre Dame's going to be tough this year. For some reason, I just have a weird feeling that Notre Dame's going to make a run for it. Like I said, they don't have a set. They don't play in the SEC, or they don't have to play Georgia, LSU, Bama, Florida week after week.
Who do they have on their schedule this year?
Do they play USC?
They do play USC. And I was looking at it the other day, and to be honest with you, I forgot, but I was looking at it, and for some reason I was like, man, this might be their year.
The
They got that quarterback too.
Last time we thought that, though, they got, swept by Alabama.
Yeah, I think that should be an automatic suspension from future games. Like, they shouldn't be allowed in the playoffs if they put up numbers like that. Yeah. Just go back to junior varsity.
They need to join the Big Ten already. Like, you can't just have it your way.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking Burger King.
Okay, let's put it this way. They play Georgia week 3. If they beat Georgia, they don't play any. The only other ranked thing they play is Michigan. And Michigan, I mean, you never know. They could be garbage or be good. Who knows? Every time I think they're going to be good, they're garbage. And after that, they don't play any ranked teams, man. It's just cakewalk. So if they get past Georgia, they've got a good chance.
That's 2 of the 4 that Adam had in the Final Four. So if they beat both of those, then
that's a wrap. They don't play nobody else.
They should go undefeated.
It could happen. I mean, I'm taking a chance on Michigan. I can't for sure say they beat in the top 4, but it's one of those things where I'm taking the underdog. They haven't been Michigan in a long, long time, and so it'd be cool to see them return to their former glory. And I'm not an Ohio State fan either. So,
how long does Harbaugh have a fucking job there if he doesn't get anything going? I felt like his big, huge, oh my God, Jim Harbaugh is coming to Michigan. That kind of has worn off, I feel like.
Yeah, I don't know, man. He's been on the hot seat for what seems like 2 to 3 years, but I think it's his name that keeps his brand going.
Yeah, he was supposed to be the answer to Urban Meyer, but then Urban Meyer took off, and Ohio State's probably still going to be pretty good. And here we are with, just a mediocre Big Ten conference other than Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
Weird.
I mean, it could be fair to say that Colin Kaepernick took Jim Harbaugh to the Super Bowl because he's obviously not a good coach.
No,
maybe that speaks to Colin Kaepernick as a quarterback. Maybe he's just that good.
I don't know.
It's possible. I mean, he's kind of like a Butch Jones. He's a great recruiter. Kids love him. They want to come play for him, but he don't get the full potential out of the kids. And the Kaepernick, I hope you're joking, by the way. I kind of agreed and shit, but I was like, no, he's whatever.
No.
Kaepernick, he was good though. I think Kaepernick, his flashes in a bottle, but it's once that season ended, he just kind of, phased out.
He just took a knee.
We had a conversation on Sportszilla about whether or not he deserved to be in the league based on ability alone. I think he does.
I agree.
I think he is better than Blake Bortles.
Yep.
Blake Bortles is a backup quarterback in the NFL right now.
Yep.
Colin Kaepernick could be a backup quarterback in the NFL.
For sure. Easy.
Well, I think, one of the best sayings is the best ability is availability. And you got to look at some of these other quarterbacks in the league, like Ryan Tannehill. Why is he still on a roster? That guy hasn't played in God knows how long. He can't stay healthy. So, for that kind of reason, I think Kaepernick is one of those guys that day one, he'll be ready to suit up. I can't promise he won't get injured, but he hasn't really, been injured thus far. He just is very controversial. And personally, if I ran an NFL organization, I don't want these outspoken kind of players. But it's supposed to be a business. You want to get the best talent, but if that talent is Antonio Brown, I'm more than happy to ship him somewhere else.
But he's getting ratings for Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a trade-off.
He's a diva.
I bet he's getting paid on the side for that. He's probably getting a fat paycheck because he's bringing ratings. I know I saw something today that the city of Pittsburgh has had higher ratings for that show than any other cities.
They said it was triple.
Triple what any other city is because he's on it. And, he, of course, Antonio Brown goes out and tweets like, oh, my ex misses me or whatever, cocky ass motherfucker. But it's true. They're still wondering what's up with AB.
That's so weird to me. You'd think you'd be happy to not have to deal with all that drama. Like, he has stirred some shit up in Oakland. God.
It's something in Pittsburgh, dude. Like Le'Veon Bell, there's something that Pittsburgh leaves in them because they don't act like that when they're at Pittsburgh. They wait till they jump ship or right at the end before they start acting all crazy and shit.
Maybe Big Ben's a fucking asshole.
Yeah,
See, but
he shows his pecker to everybody. Big Ben.
But Le'Veon Bell, though, I think had a great case, and Le'Veon Bell, wasn't acting out the way that Antonio Brown is. I mean, he had all of his, the offensive line come out and say all those bad things about him, and the dude's trying to get paid. Realistically, the NFL, the shelf life of a running back is, 20 to 26 is really their prime, and then after that, they're injury prone. They're not going to be as productive as they were, and he's on that back end. He wants that security, and so I can't blame him for sitting out. It was just unfortunate that his backup was very hungry and, went out there and, threw out some numbers that were pretty equivalent to his.
Right. Yeah, he did. Even though he did sit out, he kind of just sat out and was quiet. He was like, pay me or don't.
Yeah, but James Conner, by doing that, set the mold for what the Cowboys are doing with Zeke. They showed that, oh, yeah, you're a superstar running back, but guess what? Next man up. James Conner came in and filled Le'Veon Bell's shoes. What's his dick is going to come and fill your shoes? Yeah. Zeke who?
You're replaceable.
Right. Go sit on that beach in Cabo.
You don't make an NFL roster and be mediocre. Even the backups are some of the greatest college running backs in the country.
Right.
And as far as Le'Veon Bell, I agree with what you said. He was smart about it. But drafting him number 1 in fantasy,
that sucks.
Fuck him. I hate him.
Yeah.
I don't never want nothing to do with him again. But with that being said, if he's sitting around pick 10 and nobody's drafted him, I'm probably going to take him, even though I thought shit about him.
He'll be taken the 5th round.
I would take him too by that point.
Because, I mean, let's face it. When has he been on the field and not produced?
The man puts up numbers, and that, to his point, that's why he deserves the money.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it has set a dangerous precedence because now we got Zeke sitting out. We got Melvin Gordon sitting out. We got all kinds of stuff that's going on around the league. I said a few weeks ago that I had a new respect for Julio because he agreed to go to training camp and go play preseason on basically a handshake that they would work out a deal.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I want to say this real quick before you get on. I'm going to say, are you fucking serious? You took Juju over Julio?
When
you did your top 5 or 6?
I would.
No.
Because he gets in the end zone.
It's not because he's a better receiver, but it's the way that he's set up in these, in the offense. Juju is getting fed the ball in places to where he has opportunity to score. Julio is not. He's getting double and triple covered every game. And so if you look at, there's a couple of games last year where he went off 30 points, whatever. But every week, I'd rather take Juju.
Yeah.
Now, let me say this, Justin. If I'm a franchise owner and I'm building a franchise around a player, I'm taking Julio.
Oh, yeah.
If I'm a fantasy owner in a PPR league, I'm going Juju.
Right.
Because he's getting the receptions and he's getting utilized in the red zone.
Are we PPR?
Yes.
We've
seen that Julio doesn't get utilized properly in the red zone. Maybe he will this year.
He's got the whole squad. Like you say, he's getting triple team. But I'm glad to know this because I'm going to sit back and wait and get a value on Julio. And then I'm going to PPR the hell out of y'all when he goes off for 12 catches a game like he did that one year against Carolina. He had 12 catches, 300 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, that one year, that one game many years ago. Yeah, that one.
Let's just wait.
Way to set the curve, buddy.
We'll see how many catches he gets being triple teamed.
Let's put it this way. Now Ridley's jumped up. We got Sanu is up. He ain't getting triple team no more. Yeah,
he's got
if
more
he
weapons.
does, Ridley will eat somebody to pieces. So I think it's going to be different this year, but we'll find out, I guess.
And are you a Falcons fan?
Yeah.
Diehard, man.
One of my best friends lives in Buford. He's a diehard Falcons fan, and I feel bad for him every year. They just somehow they underperform.
Year, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, not only that, after we lose the Super Bowl, I got to listen to Brandon's shit for like 2 years, and it never ends.
Last year when Justin was on, basically every week to recap NFL, it was just fucking shit on the Falcons every year or every week.
And what I thought was funny is my first time back this year, the very first thing he brings up is fucking Tom Brady. The very first thing he said was Tom Brady. I was like, come on, man. I about hung up. Like, fuck this shit. I'm done.
You got to remember where you're at, I guess.
Yeah,
it's
man.
all good.
I mean, I let off with the Patriots for a reason, and it's because ESPN released their list of the power rankings going into the season, and surprise, surprise, the reigning, defending champions of the world, New England Patriots, are number one. Are you surprised by that?
I drafted him.
You did. You did.
I've never drafted him. I drafted him this year in my first draft. Because I mean, I respect his game, but you know,
I drafted him last year and it didn't turn out so well for me. I don't know if it was just, I don't know what it was, but he didn't.
Your season was derailed because you had Leonard Fournette and he got injured early.
Right. But I feel like Tom Brady didn't necessarily do super hot numbers wise.
He's just consistent. You know, you're consistently going to get 18 to 20 every week.
Yeah.
You're not going to get no crazy numbers like a Deshaun Watson or Cam Newton when they rush it in, but you're going to consistently get, you know, that certain number is going to be there. That's what you get with Tom Brady.
He's definitely not a bad pick, but I don't know if I'd reach too far to get him.
He's got him better pick. He's a better pick this year. You got him. You were lucky because you got him before all the news of the receivers joining the squad.
That will help.
Now he's bumped up quite a bit to be, you know, a top level quarterback because he has so many weapons. We talked about some of them earlier, but they've got a rookie, N'Keal Harry from Arizona State. Kid's Jesus, blazing speed, and he's got hands for days. Put him on the outside on the same side that Edelman's running a slot. Dude, defenses are going to be fucked because if they go for the deep ball, that leaves Edelman open all day over the middle. They collapse on Edelman, that leaves the deep bomb open. Brady's still strong enough in the arm to throw it 35 yards down the field. I think this year he puts up 4,500 yards, 40 touchdowns. It's not going to be as good as his season where he connected with Moss, but it's going to be probably his second or third career best season.
Yeah. So I'm guessing you're taking the Pats to go back to the Super Bowl?
Yes. They will win the AFC. The road to the Super Bowl in the AFC will once again go through Foxborough. They will get home field advantage throughout. I hate to break your hearts. That's what's going to happen.
I think a lot of people want to say that the Chiefs will win, but I don't know. I don't think the defense can hold off Tom Brady and his crew.
I know he's not a sophomore technically because he sat out his first year behind Alex Smith, but I think we're about to see a sophomore slump with Patrick Mahomes.
I said the same thing, and I'm glad somebody's on my side.
He's definitely not going to do what he did last year.
I got lucky last year. Both my leagues, I won one of them, got third in the other. I had Patrick Mahomes, Kareem Hunt, and Tyreek Hill.
Jeez.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, you were balling until until your players started beating up everyone in sight.
Yeah, Kareem Hunt screwed me over, but whatever.
But surprisingly, the Chiefs, number 2 on the power rankings. They are a powerhouse in the NFL, but I agree with a lot of you that Mahomes is not going to perform to the level he did last year. Tyreek Hill's not going to be able to go off to the level that he was last year because defenses are now more aware of his ability and his speed. Right. They're going to find ways. They chip him more on the line, hit him within that 5 yards, knock him off target. Fuck with him.
Now that they've lost Kareem Hunt, they're a one-trick pony. They have Mahomes throwing the ball, and they have Travis Kelce that he can throw to, and they have Tyreek Hill, and that's basically it. Everyone else is, a no-name guy. So all you got to do is shut down the passing game, and they'll be pretty much done.
What makes me mad about Travis Kelce with fantasy is he's really the only standout number 1 guaranteed tight end this year. The rest of them, you kind of like Ertz, who knows what Ertz will do. There's a few that are maybe close, but when do you kind of have to reach for Kelsey, but if you get Kelsey, you're set the whole year with tight end. If you don't get Kelsey, you're kind of flipping, flopping, maybe a few games trying to play matchups. It depends. Like that Kittle kid, I can't think of his first name.
George Kittle. I was gonna say Kittle. If his quarterback is healthy this year, I think he can, replicate the same kind of numbers.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he's in the top 3 or 4, but I still don't think any of them compare to Kelsey.
Right.
I mean, you just kind of got to reach for him. I mean, and trying to figure out like how far to reach. That's kind of what I've done. Like I waited till the 3rd round, and I was like, surely I'll get Kelsey in the 3rd round. No, he went round 2, which is awful high for a tight end.
Well, I mean, Gronk was normally picked in the first couple rounds in a lot of leagues too. So tight ends, the number 1 tight end is almost viewed as a wide receiver, a stud wide receiver. So they get snatched quickly.
Yeah, tight end is going to be a weird spot this year because, like you said, there's like 2 guys that everyone wants, and the rest are just kind of mediocre.
Well, with how many offensive weapons they have now, maybe this is the year we see David Njoku, step up and finally produce anything up in Cleveland. But why did you draft him?
I drafted him last year because I saw this 6'6" giant. Like monster athlete, and I was like, oh, this kid's going to be a monster. And last year, he was kind of hit or miss. I mean, there's some games he didn't do nothing.
Yeah.
So I think with all the weapons, I think he'll definitely won't be guarded. They'll be looking at Landry or OBJ. You're right. If he's going to go off, it's going to be this year.
And hopefully Baker doesn't try to force the ball to OBJ or some shit like that. Hopefully he can find the open man on the check down or something like that and fucking do a thing, because as listeners know, Nest Podcast is the bandwagon all the way to Cleveland.
I think he'll outplay Patrick Mahomes this year.
We adopted hot take. Holy fuck. He tried to slip that one in there too.
Look at the weapons, man. I mean,
that's true.
He's also got a bit of drama with OBJ.
Yeah.
I think Pittsburgh's going to win that division still.
Yeah, probably.
See, I heard you say that on your episode, and I was like, I don't think so.
They still have Big Ben.
Cleveland's got to show me before I take them over Pittsburgh. Like he said, it's like the Patriots, man. They've got this thing in place, and it's been there forever, and they're always at the top. So until they show me.
Big Ben getting hurt or something here this year. He's fucking old, man, and he has been banged up.
Got Josh Dobbs, baby.
Don't know him.
He was the quarterback from Tennessee. I think he would have a more. I think he would have a more successful career as an aeronautical engineer, though.
Probably
because a career backup is not the life he probably envisioned when he wanted to go play football. But dude's smart as hell. I have no doubt that he would understand the playbook and understand it. I just don't think his ability is NFL ready or NFL level to be competitive.
He's killing the preseason right now.
I mean, fucking Blake Bortles kills the preseason.
I heard some crazy stat on SportsCenter this morning, and I can't say it verbatim, but there was a couple teams, I think the Browns did it and the Dolphins, maybe. They went undefeated in the preseason, and then they went on to not win a single game in the regular season.
So I don't even pay attention to preseason at all.
I told Brandon about this. I said, not Brandon. I said Atlanta never wins a preseason game, but then they go off and win at least 9, 10, 11 games. Yeah. That's how it works, man. It's like the best preseason team is usually the shittiest teams. Because they got everybody's competing to even get a starting spot. Right. So you got these teams like, for example, I'm going to use Atlanta. You got Matt Ryan out, Devontae Freeman out, Julio out, Ridley out. You know who your stars are. You got these shitty ass teams that don't know who in the hell they're even starting week 1. So they're playing everybody. So they're the shit in the preseason. But then that's the same team you usually see in the regular season.
Right. What do you guys think about the preseason, like as a whole? Like I think it's a waste of fucking time. I think we need maybe 1 or 2 preseason games and just make the rest of them count, you know?
Yeah, I would like to see, an additional 2 regular season games and get rid of the 2 preseason. But, a lot of players also make the argument that those 2 extra games can weigh on them and that's more risk to injury.
Right.
But I mean, this is a business, man. Think that's 2 extra games of, selling, putting butts in seats and selling tickets and merchandise. And I'm
not even opposed to just getting rid of the first 2 preseason games. Like, no, who fucking watches those?
Well, it's interesting you guys brought this up. They just had news come out this week that the owners and the players or certain groups have come together and they're coming to a resolution that they might cut the preseason to 3 games and then expand the playoff field to 14. It would essentially add a playoff game.
Like 2 wild card or something.
I guess, yeah, but it would only give one team a bye week in the playoffs because there would be 7 from each side. So that number 1 seed is going to get that bye. The 2 seed would then have to play the, I guess, 7th seed.
I think that's fair.
I'm cool with it.
It's a good compromise. See, the preseason sucks to watch, but you got to think that there's probably 20 people fighting for 4 spots, and they need that live action football to see who's going to make that 53-man roster. Sure. So if you take away all preseason, you're never going to figure that out in practice. You've got to have live action game to see how they react to certain things. Throw shit at them like a 2-minute drill, see how they react. Watch them do just the little things that's boring as shit for us because we don't know who the hell half of them are. But some of those guys, even some of the stars in today's league, were on the brink of not making the team, but they killed it in the preseason, and now they're NFL superstars. And then the other guy that didn't make it's working, at a car dealership. I mean, so it's needed for sure, but I think the 3 games is a good compromise. Just taking that 1 and adding it to the end, that'll give, because really they always play the starters 1 game, at least like 2 or 3 possessions.
And that's usually the 3rd game.
Yeah, and that shit's not needed at all. It needs to be strictly for the people who they're going to make the 53-man roster. So that way you're getting no injuries, nothing. You can bring people in, send people out. So that 1 game they can afford to lose, and I feel like that would just be the best thing all around.
Yep, I agree. You made the point that the preseason is where a lot of these young guys are developing and trying to earn a spot. It's the same thing in baseball during spring training where they play a lot of the minor leaguers and they'll come around and play a lot in the spring training. And then around this time of year, those same names start trickling into the major leagues because we're getting close to September call-ups, getting close to October, getting close to the playoffs, postseason, and all that things. Doesn't look like my Red Sox are going to be making the postseason, but womp. I'll still be watching because we mentioned that, Adam, you're from Houston. I think the Astros.
Adam's Houston Astros.
I think the Houston Astros are the World Series champions. I don't think anybody touches them this year.
100%.
I can name a couple of guys.
That's so sad to me that you've got a great baseball team, like I'm guessing minutes from your house, and you don't give a fuck.
I just need to start. I mean, it's one of those things too where I used to care a lot more about baseball when we had, Carlos Beltran, we had the Rocket, Andy Pettitte back in the day when we, looked like shit in the World Series. And after that, I just stopped really watching baseball altogether. And I feel like at this point, if I go out and I buy my Altuve or Springer jersey and I start chanting Springer Dinger and I start, really giving a shit, I feel like I'm such a bandwagoner. And so it's
about it.
Okay. Well, let me lay it to you like this. I know you're engaged, you're going to get married and all that stuff soon, but you've had somebody else in your life that you dated, that you loved, and you got brokenhearted with, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you loved again. When you saw the Rocket and Pettitte and all those guys in the World Series, it broke your heart. You were sad that the Astros lost. Brother, it's time to love again.
All right, Chris Harrison, thank you.
Yeah, I think I was gonna say something not along the lines, but same thing kind of with me, how I became a Cardinals fan. I never gave a fuck about them until I moved here. And then they last year they went on to be the winningest team in all of MLB during the month of August. And I was like, this is pretty fucking cool. And they might go on a run and actually make it. They didn't, but they caught me interested. And I think the perfect time to become a fan of a team is when they're doing well, because it gives you something to watch that's entertaining. Yeah. It's way easier to become a fan when they're doing well than when they're just sucking ass.
Well, I'll just start, because it's like one of those things where it's like, oh, I like the Astros, and then I'm like, oh shit, I missed the game. Oh well. I watch postseason though. I do watch postseason. Yeah.
And that's a lot of people. A lot of people.
Regular season, it's hard to keep up. NBA too. I mean, I'm not a diehard Rockets fan, but I'm from here, so I'll watch. I like watching postseason NBA, but the regular season, it's too many games and it's too much drama, and
right.
I just can't subscribe to it, man. But yeah, baseball is something I definitely want to get a little more invested in, just because it's America's pastime and my city's doing well, and I love postseason. I wish I could have that same energy for the whole regular season, which maybe within the next 2 years I can shift a lot more of my energy towards that.
Right. I think it's awesome, especially for a big football fan, because it gives you something to watch and to pay attention to on the off season of football. For basically the entire off season of football, you have baseball stuff to watch.
I will say too that when we did win the World Series, it was right after Harvey, and I remember it was a big deal. Mm-hmm. Like there were a lot of people that they're watching the game in their house, and their house completely demolished. They had all their sheetrock torn up 4 feet, and they're watching the game and crying because they lost everything, but they have the Astros, and we finally won the World Series. So that was pretty cool to witness.
Yeah, that is awesome.
Yeah, we let you borrow the City Strong motto for a little while. You're welcome. You're welcome for that World Series.
Yeah,
it was a gift from Boston.
We appreciate that.
It is crazy how cities that go through traumatic experiences rally around sports teams. The Boston Strong thing happened after the Boston Marathon bombing, and then the Houston Strong thing, and they rallied. I guess LA needs something to happen out there, because they make it to the big game, but then they just fall apart.
It's sports in general. I mean, New Orleans, Katrina. I mean, it's a lot of things. It's crazy, man. Sports can bring together an entire city, and it's it's important. A lot of people that I talk to that don't really follow sports at all, I don't pity him for. I feel bad for him, man. It's I can't imagine not having sports in my life.
Yeah, me too. I'm the same way. Like, I was the kid that grew up watching Sports Center on Saturday morning instead of cartoons. But
when Sports Center was good.
Yeah, yeah, with Stuart Scott and all them. Yeah, back in the day. Baseball's kind of been trying to cast its rod and get its bait sunk into Justin with the Braves. I know he's been kind of nibbling on their bait here lately.
Yeah, I like Acuna a lot, man. I think he was a steal for what we gave for him. He's just been dominant.
Yeah, he signed an extension in the preseason before this year.
Yeah, 100 grand, wasn't it? Or 100 million?
Something. Yeah, I think it was 8 years, 100 million or whatever. But for a player at his level, that's definitely a good deal. He's one of the phenoms of this rookie class from last year.
Yeah. I know the only thing that's keeping me away from baseball is I spend 20 plus hours in a boxing gym every day. All I talk about is boxing. All I see is boxing. I mean, that's all I know besides football is friggin' boxing anymore. Right. And it's getting worse.
Do you follow MMA at all?
Yeah, I do. I follow a lot of the big names still, but my son, he's been boxing since he's 5 years old. So I'm really went more into boxing as of the last few years, especially with McGregor doing all the stupid shit he's doing. And I love John Jones and watching him get suspended every other fight and all that bullshit, kind of pushed me even more into boxing. And then when my son went on a little winning streak, he won a title belt. That shit got my heart into boxing. So
that's awesome, man.
I like MMA, but I'm definitely old school when it comes to that.
I'm a huge MMA guy.
His son Trenton, I think I heard on your last podcast that he's got another fight for a belt coming up soon.
Yeah, September 7th, he's fighting a kid that actually beat his training partner, Matt. He beat him bad. But right after he beat him, his coach came to me and said, I want Trenton to fight that kid because Trenton's a taller kid. And this kid is probably about 6 inches taller than Trenton. So he's tall for his age. But Trenton's like in your face. Like he will not back up, dude. I'm talking, he's just like, he's getting hit and his little head's going everywhere, but he still keeps going forward. And the other kid's more of a defensive fighter. So we have it's going to be a tough fight, but we have a really good feeling that he'll get his second belt on September 7th. Because like I said, T-Man, he will not back down. He will go forward on this kid until the kid just gets tired or quits. Like I said, he's been training for 5 years, 5 days a week, 2.5, 3 hours a day. This kid does not have as much stamina or is not as strong as Trenton. So
he's going to go and push the tempo, push the pace, get him exhausted, much like how Nate Diaz did against Anthony Pettis.
Yeah, it's who he reminds me of, man, except he don't talk. Trenton don't say anything. He's like the Nate Diaz that don't talk. But that kid that we fought 2 weeks ago was 12. We pulled him out of the crowd, and he was bigger than Trenton, and Trenton beat the brakes off of him. Trenton just turned 10. So I'm confident. But speaking of Nate Diaz, I love that dude.
He's great.
He's been one of my favorite fighters forever. But man, I just getting high during training. He does all the shit you don't want your fighter to do, but he's so cool about it that makes you like him.
Yeah. He's the superstar that the UFC never capitalized on.
Dana White hates him.
Yeah.
Well, they tried to capitalize on him, but he's hard to play game with, man. I mean, he initially was going to fight Poirier, and then he didn't want to do it anymore, so he pulled out like 2 weeks, whatever, before the fight. He wants $3 million.
Do like a 165 weight class like belt fight? Isn't that what
they were going to, and then some crap happened. But speaking of Poirier, he's got a big fight coming up.
Fucking A.
Yeah, with Habib.
Habib, Abu Dhabi, UFC 242.
Yeah. When is that this Saturday or next?
It's
next month.
7th. September 7th, I think, yeah.
Couple weeks.
So that's like 2 weeks away, yeah.
Is anyone else on that card?
Yeah, it's Paul Felder and Edson Barbosa.
Nice.
And that's the co-main. And let me pull it up real quick.
And Conor McGregor is promising to be in the crowd.
He ain't shit. After he hit that old man, he could go burn in hell.
I love Conor McGregor.
Yeah. Apparently that incident happened months ago, and it's just now becoming news or whatever. So that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But that man's gotten paid. That old man, he got fucking paid.
He took a shot though, man. He like turned around and like just started talking to his homie.
Yo, he didn't even flinch. He did not even flinch.
Sign that guy up. Come on, he's in the Masters division.
Maybe that says that Conor lost something in his hands, or that he's just a little boy and he's only been knocking out little boys.
He punched a dude that was probably like a Vietnam veteran that was like, "You little bitch." You probably talk shit to him afterwards.
I don't know. He's probably got old man strength. Man. It's different.
I feel like Conor is taking a page from the John Jones handbook, where Phenom killing it, and then is fucking like just ruining his career on outside of the ring shit.
You know, I think there's something to what Nate Diaz said in the press conference. You know, he went away for 3 years because everybody sucks. He's survived wave after wave of these people that rise to the top and they're the greatest fighter, and then they're gone. And then a new batch is in. They rise to the top. They're the greatest fighter. Then they're gone. He was still there the whole time is what he was saying. Mm-hmm. I kind of agree. Conor was just one of those guys. He rose to the top, took 2 or 3 L's, and now he's on his way out.
Yeah, and I mean, who the fuck did he even beat that was a big name? Chad Mendes, Aldo.
I disagree, man. He beat Chad Mendes. He beat Jose Aldo. He beat Eddie Alvarez. He murdered him. Murdered Eddie. He beat Dustin Poirier on the come up. He beat Max Holloway on the come up. And all these people that want to say, oh, they were different fighters. What did he like level up all of a sudden? Like, no, it's the same person. They've learned from experiences. I think what happened, man, is Conor let the money get to him. The same thing happened with Ronda. That same motivation when you don't. This isn't the NFL. This isn't soccer. This isn't baseball. If your heart's not in it, you can't get in that cage. You can't get in a boxing ring if you're not 100% devoted to winning. It's, you know, same thing with Spec Ops. If you even go into SEAL training and say, oh, I wonder if I can make it, you've already lost the battle. You're not going to make it.
I disagree. I think Conor got too big for his britches. He went downhill when he started to try to conquer multiple weight classes, trying to conquer multiple sports. He self-detonated. He did this to himself by trying to spread himself everywhere and make himself the biggest fucking thing on the planet.
Has he self-detonated though?
Bro.
He fought potentially the greatest boxer of all time. Went 7-8 rounds with him. Beat him a couple rounds. I mean, it was different.
If he even remotely beat Mayweather, it's because Mayweather wanted to make it believable.
Let me tell you about.
Still did.
Now listen to what Mayweather. This is what happened. First of all, Mayweather could have took him out in the first round. Mayweather had a plan, and you can hear his corner guy, his dad, Mayweather Sr., say it. He said, "We're going to turn it up in round 6." Mayweather just basically played defense and just jabbed at McGregor, basically toying with his ass to make it an entertaining fight. Round 6, he turned it up. It didn't last a round and a half. That Mayweather let that fight go that long, it would have been over. Like I said, like he beat that Japan guy when he was just had his hands down, just flicking a jab at him and knocked him out.
Well, I agree with that because I also do think that Mayweather was just dragging him into deep water, and doing that kind of thing. But at the same time, that was his first professional boxing match. I mean, besides that, he's been doing striking out of, SBG, Global, and Ireland. And, everything he knows is in the cage. So it's not, I think the victory for him wasn't potentially maybe beating him. It was just getting that fight to happen. He made more money than he will ever make in the UFC off of one fight. Then he goes in, takes his time off, and then he fights Khabib, which he was never going to beat Khabib, especially in that point in time. He had a much better chance had he fought him, around the same time he fought Eddie Alvarez. But Khabib's also a different animal. But I do think that Khabib is going to get upset against Dustin Poirier. I got Poirier winning TKO.
Watch him beating Khabib. Oh wow!
And what's crazy is Adam has some pretty good fucking calls. He called Stipe beating DC, and I don't think anyone really saw that coming.
You did. DC ain't shit.
Well, true, but I gave him the benefit of the doubt because, I guess Stipe really is the real fucking deal.
Zach said to me in a text, he's like, I should have stuck with my gut reaction because DC ain't shit.
That's what I get for giving the motherfucker a bone.
Stipe, man.
He dropped in the UFC pound for pounds all the way down to 7th.
Wow, that's pretty steep.
Dude, DC?
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's got all these fake belts. He got one belt, the heavyweight belt when he beat Stipe. The light heavyweight belt, it's a fake belt because John Jones is being a dumbass.
Right.
But that's why he didn't want to go back down to light heavy, or why he left initially, in my opinion, because he's cleaned up everybody else that, isn't John. And, I mean, I think that he's going to fight again in December. I think we'll have the trilogy with him and Stipe Miocic. I think Miocic is going to beat him. And I think that's it for him, man.
Man, if I were him, I would just retire now. I mean, I don't think he has anything left to prove. Like he beat Stipe and Stipe beat him, and it's whatever. Like
that fight will make money, though.
Yeah. I can definitely see him trying to get his belt back, but it's not going to be good. I don't think, especially at his age.
To Adam's point, DC has before said that he wanted to go out on a W.
Mm-hmm.
So he doesn't want to go out on an L. And, I mean, that's got to be a tough pill to swallow for somebody like him who, legitimately Olympic. Is he a gold medalist?
No.
Is he? No, it's Cejudo that was the gold medalist, right?
God, I hate that guy.
Yeah, he's a fucking prick, but
He's the
uh,
biggest
DC's
douchebag in the UFC.
yeah, he really is. But DC's an Olympic level wrestler.
Yeah.
Not used to getting beat a lot. He's 20 whatever and 2 now in the UFC.
Yeah, he was
22 and 3.
He was undefeated at heavyweight.
One of those got removed. One of those John Jones's losses got removed. So on his official record, it's only 2.
He will go down as one of the greatest, cage fighters of all time. I mean, he did a lot for the sport. I mean, he's not the best fighter, but you can respect a guy like DC. I mean, he's been through a lot of, tough things that have happened in his life. He had to deal with John. I mean, arguably, he's 40 years old. If he fights John and they're the same age, I think he beats John, man. He's got all the tools to do it. He's just, a good couple of years older than him.
Yeah. And he's definitely at the advantage by not going back down to 205, because I was afraid that if John took the bait and went up to heavyweight to fight him, that he could beat him at heavyweight, because that's where his chance is.
Yep.
He doesn't have to cut weight. Yeah, I mean, he's dangerous for sure.
Question is, do we see a trilogy between him and John at heavyweight, or do we see a rematch with Stipe?
I don't see them fighting at heavyweight. John said he's not about it, so I don't think so.
I think he needs to retire and stick to commentating.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like UFC needs to head in a different direction where they get somebody else to kind of be the Dana White role. Maybe DC could move into that role, because he's not controversial as Dana White is, with all the fucking dumb shit that he's always saying. Move DC into that role where he's kind of like the face of the company. He's the public matchmaker, if you will.
Yeah.
Let him do something like that. I don't need to see him in the cage anymore.
No, I don't either.
I think he's got one more in him.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's gonna win it, but he's got one more in him.
If he does, and he's wanting to go out on a W, then he better not schedule it to be a trilogy fight with either Stipe or John Jones.
Mm-hmm.
Shit.
Because those are obviously 2 of the toughest opponents out there. If he wants to go out on a W, maybe he should challenge Cejudo.
Yeah. What do we want to see next from Nate? Jorge Masvidal?
Oh, abso-fucking-lutely.
Mm-hmm.
Masvidal's gonna clean the floor with him, man.
You think, huh?
See, I like what Justin said. I like Diaz. I like his antics. He's very entertaining to watch. But I mean, other than Pettis and Cerrone in the first McGregor fight, he hasn't really done a whole lot. He's right on the coattails of his brother Nick. Nick is the one that will go down as one of the greatest fighters in UFC. But Nate really didn't do a whole lot, man. I mean, he is a fan favorite that is never really, he's good. I'm not trying to take anything away from him. I'm just basically saying I think he's a little overrated when it comes to fighting.
I think
some of these guys.
Full fact that he just beat Conor was what really launched it. Like,
Absolutely.
I think no one thought that anyone could ever even touch Conor, and then Nate takes this fight last minute, chokes him out, and it soars from there. He's definitely good, but I think you have a point. I can't think of anyone else that's a big name that he's fought and won.
He's beat Cerrone. He's
Michael
beat
Johnson,
Gray Maynard, Michael Johnson. Let's see, Melvin Gillard.
Yep.
Don't know.
Melvin Gillard, didn't he used to play football or like a different sport?
Maybe.
He's a black dude.
But then when you go to Nick Diaz, though, Nick Diaz has a track record of fights.
Yeah, he's a vet for sure.
Oh, I was just listing his wins. He's got fights against Clay Guida, a split decision that he lost. He's got fights against Joe Stevenson that he lost. He's fought a lot of guys. Rory McDonald, he's fought a unanimous decision loss. So he goes,
Nate?
Yeah. Ben Henderson, a unanimous decision loss. all of his losses are unanimous decisions or split decisions. He goes the distance with guys. If you don't get stopped, you always have a chance to come out on top.
You know what I like most about Nate, and y'all won't notice this because he's kind of like a lazy fighter. Like he looks like he's not trying to do too much because he's kind of cocky and arrogant. But his jabs and his striking is on point. Like he could step into a boxing ring and knock McGregor out in like 5 rounds. He's 10 times the boxer McGregor could ever be. And I don't know if it's because I notice it because I'm watching boxers all the time. But even when he throws that little jab off his waist, like where he's being cocky about it, man, the way he snaps his punches, and it's just beautiful. You just got to sit back and watch it, man. And like through the naked eye, it looks like he's being cocky and lazy. But man, the kid he should go to boxing. The kid could be a good boxer.
I think he's definitely a top 10 UFC fighter in his weight class. I just don't know if he beats a lot of the other talent that's in welterweight or even lightweight if he fights, chooses which weight class he wants to stick with. But no, you make good points. He's got excellent boxing technique. That's one of his best traits is he can stand there and bang with people, and it's entertaining to watch. He's got a chin.
Yeah, he can take a hit. I wish he would use more of his jiu-jitsu skills because he's a black belt fucking stud in jiu-jitsu. And I think the last time we saw it, pay off for him was when he choked out Connor. If I were him, I'd be trying to take everybody down.
He's a showman, though. Everybody wants to see somebody stand up and bang.
Adam, you brought up that you didn't think that Nate had ever really beaten anybody. He's beaten some of the same names and fought a lot of the same names as Masvidal. So if you're saying that Nate's never fought anybody, then you're putting Masvidal in that same category.
Not necessarily, because Masvidal is on this streak. I'm a huge Darren Till fan. He went into London and cleaned out Darren Till, cleaned his clock.
Before Darren Till, he had lost back-to-back fights to Damian Maia and Stephen Wonderboy Thompson.
Right, but then that was a while back though. But I'm saying right now it's who's hot. Dustin Poirier, same thing. He lost a lot of fights to a lot of whatever fighters, but he's on this streak. He's turned around. Same with Masvidal.
He's won 2 in a row.
2 in a row in a flashing. I mean, dude, he's got fire. He's gonna be good. It's gonna be a good fight. I think if anybody can beat Nate right now, it's gonna be Masvidal.
I mean, he fucking destroyed Ben Askren, who was supposed to be like this undefeated craziness guy.
He caught Ben Askren. Yeah, he didn't outfight him. He caught him. Yeah, Same as when Connor caught Jose Aldo. He didn't fight Jose Aldo.
Right.
He caught him with a punch and knocked him out. He caught him with a knee and knocked him out.
But I think with Masvidal and Connor too against Aldo, with Masvidal, he knew Askren's game plan was to shoot, and when he shot, he put his fucking knee in his head, and it worked. Same as
game plan.
Same as
Aldo and Connor, same thing.
It worked. What if his knee would have struck in the chest and wouldn't have knocked Askren out, and then you were off balance and Askren takes you down and Askren's you for the first 5 minutes of the fight?
Well,
it's the risk he had to take, but he caught him.
Right.
He didn't
I think it was a well-timed and well-planned move, though. Same with Connor and Aldo. He knew Aldo was furious and wanted to charge and took advantage of it.
Oh, guess who's not going to shoot in like that on him? Nate Diaz.
Yeah, that's going to be a hell of a fucking fight.
So they're going to have to fight. And I think Nate is the better fighter.
I don't know. I think it's too close for me to say.
Do you know where Jorge? I mean, I'm not. They're both. They come from bad areas. They grew up fighting. But do you know where Masvidal started his fighting campaign?
Down in Miami, Florida, with Kimbo.
Yep. Backyard fights. He was on YouTube. He has a ponytail, man.
Street Jesus, man.
Yep.
You have some CTE.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
for sure.
But that's all cool and all. Yeah, you're a badass. You're a bad motherfucker. That's why Nate called you out. He said, we're not fighting for a welterweight belt or a middleweight belt. We're fighting for the baddest motherfucker belt. Yeah, and Nate said, and that's mine. If you want it, you got to come get it.
And, when I say that I think Masvidal would win, I'm not saying like he'd clean him. I think it would be it would go the distance.
Either way, I could see Masvidal beating him.
Yeah.
I just think Nate will. but it's going to be a war either way.
Yeah, hopefully.
Another fight, real quick. Not the next UFC, but UFC 243 in Melbourne, Australia. We got the title fight between Israel Adesanya Stylebender and Robert Whittaker.
God, that's going to be amazing.
Yeah, I really enjoy watching Stylebender fight. Every fight it's a show.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
He's the leader of the next generation of MMA fighters for sure. He is fucking talented.
He won't beat Whittaker though.
You don't think?
I don't think he has the power to knock out Whittaker, man.
Whittaker is huge.
Whittaker is a big middleweight.
So big. Like, dude, on fight day, he looks like he could weigh in at fucking heavyweight. He is so big. So yeah, I think that'll be a tough one too. But
I don't think Stylebender beats Paulo Costa. I don't think Stylebender beats Yoel Romero. I think that he's very flashy and he's very entertaining to watch, but he doesn't. He just doesn't have that same dynamic as some of these other guys do. I think that he's a very small middleweight almost.
Too.
You think you would do better if he went down a weight class?
I mean, he's doing great. I can't say would do any better. I mean, he's already, top 3, contested fighter in that division. But
in your opinion, that's the ceiling then.
I'm just saying, I don't think he beats Robert. I mean, I don't think he beats.
It's gonna be
Robert.
tough.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't think he has that power to knock out the other middleweights.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that was middleweight is such a weird, or not? Is 185 middleweight?
Yeah, Gastelum, dude, he's a little overrated. Gastelum's not bad, but that dude is. If he actually cut weight, he would be like a 155er. But he walks in there like he's like a miniature version of like Andy Ruiz. Although I'll say Ruiz though, man, he's very nice when it comes to boxing. I don't know if he beats Joshua again, but he probably will. I think he's got what it takes to do it again.
Man, we haven't heard anything from Anthony Joshua for fucking ever.
I think they're trying to set up that rematch.
It's been set up. It's happening in Abu Dhabi, right?
Yeah, I know it's not in the U.S. I know it was planned for somewhere overseas, or they were talking about it at least. Might be Abu Dhabi. I'm not sure.
Anthony Joshua dodged Wilder for like a year and a half.
Well, we know why now.
That's what he gets. No, he dodged him, and then he took homeboy. He took it as like a kind of a walkthrough fight, to get back.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We know now why he was dodging him, because he ain't shit.
Yeah, Wilder will knock him out.
I would dodge Wilder too.
I'm a big Tyson Fury man. I like the Gypsy King.
You know what I like about Tyson Fury? He moves like a lightweight, but he's a fucking giant.
Yep.
His feet work is insane, dude. Like a Pacquiao feet work.
It's funny when we talk MMA, Justin kind of sits there and is like, "Okay, I'll let you guys do your thing." You mentioned boxing, and he perks right back up.
Yep.
Now I'm gonna tell you that. I'm going to talk about MMA real quick before I forget. My sister's best friend, Jonathan Pierce, and he's friends of the gym. He just won week 3 of Contender Series and got signed to the UFC.
Congrats to him.
Yeah, he signed a 3-fight deal, $10,000 guaranteed for the first 3 fights per fight, win or lose.
Nice.
And then we go from there, man. I guess he's just in this journey.
Yeah, so he'll be on like prelims and stuff like that.
Yeah, he just won. Week 3 is the first time ever in Contender Series all 5 winners got signed. He signed all 5 of them because there were 5 just crazy fights.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
congrats to him, man.
Yeah, I just saw him. He flew in for like 3 days from Vegas, and I got to talk to him, and then he literally flew right back out and was ready to start training again.
Well, luckily, he didn't have the same fate flying into Tri-Cities that Dale Earnhardt Jr. did.
Yeah, ain't that crazy?
Yeah, that's nuts. That's almost in my parents' backyard. It's fucking crazy.
You could smell it for like 20 miles away.
Damn.
That is crazy.
Mountain Dew.
Man, you got Dr. Enough.
Trying to burn the supply of Dr. Enough is what they're trying to do.
Saboteurs.
Oh, man. You guys got anything to talk about? We've been on here for a while, huh?
Yeah, I keep thinking about Mayweather and Conor. I could have a 3-hour episode and just say why that was a bad idea.
That's a great idea. What are you talking about?
It pisses me off because you got amateur fighters that have 300 amateur fights, and then they'll have 10 pro fights. Conor might have 30 fights in his life, and then his dumb ass, because he is popular, gets to fight one of the greatest of all times. And then dude that's been fighting since he was a baby and has like I said, like 300-400 fights that might not ever get that shot. I think it's bullshit. It's not that makes me so mad. And I've been thinking about, that's why I was sitting here quiet. I was just thinking about that.
It's a business, man. That's the sad part about it.
Oh yeah, he made. I mean, who else? Nobody else could have made that fight and made $100 million in one night.
You think they would do Pac-Man and Mayweather too?
I don't want to see it.
They're talking about it right now. He got it started yesterday. If it happens, I want it to be the last damn fight for both of them. I'm tired of seeing all this bullshit. Yeah. I mean, Mayweather just he's already the greatest, one of the greatest of all times. Just leave, bro. If you take a loss, that's what you're going to be remembered for.
Mm-hmm.
Is that last fucking loss. Just leave. You're 52-0. Quit, man. You've got millions. He's probably got so much money that he could never spend it.
Pac-Man too. I mean, we all know he's fucking great. Like, old as shit now. Just retire and go be the president of the Philippines or whatever.
But I tell you what, a lot of people were high on Thurman coming up, and Pac-Man beat the shit out of Thurman.
Not bad for an old man.
Pac-Man being in his 40s and Thurman being an up and comer, yeah, that's that impressed me big time.
I didn't. Pacquiao got robbed against that one school teacher or whatever in Australia that beat him. That dude whose face got completely messed up compared to him.
Oh yeah, that's the thing about boxing. It's way more political than MMA.
That's one reason why I have issues watching all boxing matches. There's some fighters that, like Gervonta Davis, or like the Flash, those kind of fighters. I'll tune in for them. Ryan Garcia, but a lot of the fights,
is a beast.
If they fought, let's say Davis and Garcia fought, who would you take in that?
Right now, Davis. I think next year, Garcia. I think Garcia is still a few fights away.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Garcia is going to be one of the greatest times. I mean, the kid is just, his hand speed and power at a young age is just unbelievable. Watching him hit that Cobra bag, freaking mind blowing. And if y'all don't know what a Cobra bag is, just type in Ryan Garcia on Cobra bag. It's just,
it's very entertaining videos.
Oh my God, it's insane. And it's crazy. And I try to hit him at the gym just when I'm bored. I'm an old ass man, but I try to hit the bag and shit. And like, I swear to God, it'd take me 10 punches before I hit it. I'm missing the shit out of it every time. But yeah, my 10-year-old son can like pop, 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 and like never miss it. And I'm like, damn it, asshole. And Ryan Garcia is the best. I think he will be the greatest of all time. But let me tell y'all this. You remember Roy King that we had? Do we have him on here, or was it my podcast?
He called in and left a voicemail for us.
Right. Yeah,
that's right. Well, he had a fight. He was fighting a guy that was joining Showtime. And anyways, he went up there. It was last weekend. The second round, he got hit in the back of the head and he took a knee. Well, basically, he stood up and he waited for the 8 count and he walked over and he was killing this kid. And he put his hands up to show he was ready. The ref stopped the fight in the second round. I'll show you the video, the biggest horseshit stoppage I've ever seen.
Wow.
And it was all because the guy he fought was already signed up for Showtime. And they didn't want him to take a loss because you could tell the kid was gassed. They didn't want that kid to take a loss. So the ref, you could hear like a signal being yelled. The ref called the fight, biggest shit ever. And Roy was killing him.
Lots of shit. Post it online. Make that shit go viral.
I'll get it and I'll send it to you. You look on Roy's page, Roy King Jr. Somebody put it on his page. Just watch it and tell me when you get a chance, tell me what you think. It's absolutely mind blowing. He's got his hands on the ropes, like not even out of breath, just waiting on the 8 count. And he walks across the ring like straight at the dude and puts his hands up. And the ref's like this. And I was like, what in the, like everybody was booing and shit. Huh. That's what makes me mad about boxing, man. It's so political. It's stupid.
Yeah. Lots of dirty shit in boxing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, guys, we've been on here for almost an hour and a half now, so it's been quite the conversation. Do you guys want to plug your shows and tell the people where they can find you. Adam, go ahead and start. Let them know where they can find you.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at bearded_ballesta. I'm on Podbean and iTunes. I actually just uploaded an episode this morning. It's episode 26 titled Sony Snaps Spider-Man.
Yeah, if nobody cares.
If you're a nerd,
I do.
I listened to it this today on my way to my way home. It was good. They cover Spider-Man and all that stuff, and then they get into other stuff.
I've kind of opened up the. Go ahead.
They cover the 10-year anniversary of Inglourious Bastards.
Mm-hmm. Talking Glorious Bastards. We talk. Spoiler warning. I talk about that new movie Good Boys, with the little kids or whatever, and they're trying to kiss the girl.
Yeah, it looks hilarious.
Yeah, I talk about that a little bit, and
the episode
mainly. But yeah, I talk sports, entertainment, movies, TV shows, whatever, whatever's going on. I talk to Area 51. I think my next episode, we're probably going to talk more UFC and more college football. Just, I actually need to have you guys on for my next episode. So we'll get that figured out.
Your episode previous to this one with your buddy where you guys broke down the conferences and stuff like that. That was a really good one too.
Austin Cox.
Yeah.
My EOD buddy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He's showed interest on coming on your show too. So once he's all set up in New York, I'll make sure we can get him in for a Skype conversation.
He's also a Houston Astros fan. So that'll be cool if we could have him on around playoff time.
Right.
And Justin, go ahead and let people know where they can find your show and what you guys are doing over on Into the Woods.
Yeah, it's Into the Woods. You can find us on Facebook at Into the Woods Podcast. Right now, we're currently doing a Friday Night Lights segment. We've had Scienceville, Elizabeth, and a few local teams. Today, we actually had some seniors from a local school come on, which will be posted on Saturday. We've got a famous actor coming on in a few weeks. We have, like I said, we do a little bit of everything. We don't really have a set topic. I come here to nest and do my sports part. So we do talk sports, but, we talk a little bit of everything except for we stay away from politics and we stay away from religion, that kind of stuff, because it never ends right.
Yeah. That's a racket that nobody wants to hear about. So,
yeah.
So if you like our podcast, chances are you're going to like either or both of theirs. So check them out. Guys, thanks so much for coming on. Zach, thanks for putting up with us. And we'll see you next week. Peace.
Stay connected with Brandon and Zach on Facebook and Instagram at The Nest Podcast. And tune in next week for a brand new episode. And thanks for listening.